Welcome to my home in the north of Italy, where we're under lockdown for the coronavirus. So that means we can't go out to a bar, and so we're making coffee at home. Now this is the one video that I have been looking forward to. I'm going to be doing all these different apparatuses and different coffee methods, but today, a mocha. I've been looking forward to the mocha because it's an Italian classic. It's almost an icon of Italian coffee together with espresso. It was actually invented all the way back in the 1800s, but it was made famous in 1933 by Alfonso Bialetti, which came up with this sort of modern look of the mocha that you'll see in Italy today. The word mocha is quite interesting. If you're an American, the mocha for you might be a mochaccino, so it'd be a coffee, chocolate and milk drink. The mocha here in Italy, of course, means a mocha pot. Maybe overseas you might be known as a stovetop pot or a mocha pot. But the original word mocha actually came from Yemen. There's a city in Yemen called Mocha, and that was the first port of export for coffee around the world when they first started cultivating. So this word mocha is quite synonymous with the word of coffee, from port of export, methods, drinks, and even types of Arabica beans which you'll find growing as well. The mocha itself is very simple, very easy, and it's made up of three different parts. Okay, so we've got the bottom part, the bottom chamber where we will be putting our water. Then we have the filter, which will get inserted into it, as so. Once we've already put the water in, coffee goes on the top, and then in the top chamber, we'll put on top, and it will spin like so, or we're going to spin the bottom part to close it up. We'll then go onto a heat source. The pressure is going to cause the water to be forced through our ground coffee and coming out onto the top. Now, as simple as a mocha is, it's actually one of the most difficult ones to do well because it's very difficult to control a few things. So there's a few tricks which we can use to make the best mocha coffee possible. First of all, the water which we put into the bottom, you want to make sure the water is warm, so you don't want to start with cold water. The cold water will mean it'll take so much time to heat up that water. The actual mocha pot will heat up as well. You'll have steam forcing through your ground coffees as well, and it tends to cause more of a burnt taste. So if we can start with warm water, maybe around 50-60 degrees, and that drops our time of the actual time it's going to take to heat it up. Second, we want to make sure that your water is good quality water. What does that mean? It means your tap water, most of the time, you'll have chlorine or fluoride put into the tap water. Chlorine is a big problem. It does help to disinfect your water, but it'll also cause massive problems when it comes to flavour and aromas. So you want to filter your water first. If you can't even do that, even use bottled water. It's probably a better option. The amount of water I'm going to be putting in here for this size is 120 mils. Now, most of the time at home, people will not go measuring the water. You'll put the water just up to this valve. And of course, it depends on the size of your mocha pot. And this one, 120 mils, is what I'm looking for. Second of all, the coffee you use. The flavour of your mocha is going to depend greatly on what coffee we're using. Now, I could take a ready-made, ready ground for a mocha grind, or alternatively, I can take a different kind of coffee and I can grind it for myself, which is what I'm going to be doing today. Now, if I was to use a dark roasted, deeper flavoured coffee, obviously that's going to come through on my mocha. If I wanted to use a single origin roasted lighter, I'm going to have a little more acidity and fruity flavours. The best coffee is the one you like. There's nothing to say that one is better than the other, but you really can play with flavour here like you can with any of these methods. Now, the amount of coffee I'm going to put in here is going to be 16 grams. The reason for that is I need to make sure my filter is filled with enough volume that the water is going to be forced through. Now, if my grind size is too coarse, what's going to happen is two things. One, I'm going to have less weight of coffee because my ground size is going to actually cause more volume when it's ground coarser. And the other thing is that when my coffee is too coarse, that water is able to force through. Now, the magic of a mocha is that we do create a little bit of pressure. Now, it's nowhere like the 9 bar of pressure which we use on most espresso machines, but we can get around 1 to 2 bar of pressure, which means the water is being forced through. So if my grind size is too coarse, that pressure means the water is able to force its way through quite quickly, coming through the top chamber, and you'll be lacking flavour. At the same time, Even worse, if your coffee grind is too fine. Now if you were to take a espresso grind and put it in here, that 1 or 2 bar of pressure is not enough to force it through. So what will happen is it'll build up more and more pressure in the bottom chamber until your valve will eventually let go. So you'll actually have steam coming out of there. So your grind size is important. Now, with the right type of grind size, and in this Moka I'm using, I'll be having 16 grams. So you need to close it tight, but not too tight. You've got a rubber seal there, or a silicone seal, which will obviously create the seal, forcing the water to go through. You don't want to over tighten it at all. Then we'll move it to a heat source. You want to start with a flame not too high. You want to be able to cause the pressure to build up in the bottom chamber. Once you start to see a bit of coffee coming through, then we're going to turn that heat down as well. We don't want that pressure to build up and force the water through for too much time. So let's get to it. Okay, so I've taken my coffee. Now this is a Vanelli Sauvage, so from Panama. I'm going to put, I said I was going to be using 16 grams, I'm going to go a little more so. Just over 17. Because I'm going to have a little bit of coffee left over in here. I have a bit of retention. So that goes into there. The grind size is slightly finer compared to when I was using my Napolitano. Gym time. Here we go. Okay. I'll take a little bit off, so I've got my 16 grams. Okay, so we can take this off, remove the filter, and add our 120 ml of water. Now the water temperature is set at 75 degrees. Now if you don't have a scales, that's fine. As I said before, I'm just below that line here as well. My filter in the middle, and my coffee gets put into there. Now there's a lot of theories on how much coffee you should be putting in, and this is where people tend to make a lot of different flavors of mocha because you might want to mound it. Someone's grandmother says you have to put holes in with a toothpick. You do want to make sure it's nice and flat and even. Once again, we're trying to cause an even extraction. What does that mean? It means I want my water to be able to flow through the bed of ground coffee in an even manner. I don't want to be able to go through one way causing channeling, which is very similar to what we might find in an espresso as well. There we go, and that is perfect. Okay. So at this point, on there, it's warm but not boiling, and we move over to our stove. Okay, we can take that, open it up. At this stage, I turn the gas down a little bit. You want to keep that flow rate down the side. It should be coming through nice and thick, which means the water is pulling out flavour from your ground coffee. My gas is still on, but at a very low flame. And as you can see, the mocha creates a little bit of crema. Now, gas off altogether. So the gas is off completely, and it's just using that pressure which has been built up and through. So bring a mocha pot back over. Remember the bottom is hot. Now, importantly, before you serve your mocha pots, just give it a bit of a stir. The reason for this is that during the extraction, What came through first would have had a lot more body to it, therefore it actually extracted more flavour, and that's going to run to the bottom of your mocha pot. What comes out of the last, as you saw, that last little part was very weak in terms of flavour, so therefore it rests on the top. Now if I was to pour the first cup without stirring it, that first cup would have the weaker, more bitter flavour, and the second part would have the more sweeter flavour coming through. So once I've stirred it, you can pour. Sugar or no sugar, that depends on two things. One, the flavours you like, but also can depend very much on the type of coffee you've used. This coffee in this case is quite sweet, so therefore I'm not putting any sugar in. Should have had maybe a darker, more intense type of blend, then I might have added sugar to it. Coffee's ready!